Hello again, everyone. It's nice to have you all here this morning. My name is Durga, for those of you who don't know me. And I do have a husband. I usually introduce him, but he isn't here. Anyway, and we're here. I'm here with you this morning. I'm very, very happy to be here. Just so you know, this, those of you, I think some of you are new, this is a home as well as our temple. And 9 of us live in this home. We're a house of joy. We love being here, and we love sharing the teachings with you. So very happy again to be here. So I had an interesting thing happen to me this morning. And this kind of thing happens to me almost every single time I give Sunday service. And that is, whatever the topic is, I get to experience it deeply. And the topic is soul-receptivity, but you know it says as many as received him. And so I've been thinking the last few days, what does it mean to receive him? What do we have to do to receive him? What happens to us when we receive him? And as I was showering this morning, I noticed that my Navratna was missing. A Navratna is a 9-bangled stone. Mine actually isn't a Navratna. It's a Quattro Vratana or something. There's only 4 stones in it. But it's in India. It's a blessing. It's a bracelet that has 9 stones that represent the 9 planets. And I happen to have 4 that help me in my spiritual growth. So I'm wondering to myself, if something is there to help me in my spiritual growth, why would Divine Mother take it away? So I went through this a little bit this morning, but it was interesting because not in a sad way, wasn't freaked out. In fact, I had an idea to write a poem called Divine Mother is Messing with Me Again. And because she does. I don't know if she messes with you, but she definitely messes with me. And not always joyfully, things you wouldn't think of as joyful. Taking away vehicles that are perfectly fine vehicles. Why would she do that? Taking away other jewelry, taking away parents, loved ones, my daughter, my grandchildren. Like they're heavy. You think of them as really important things in your life. And yet, every single time, there's been some release that's happened. And so every time now, I'm sort of waiting. Since I've been in Los Angeles, I've had my car hit twice. I've had 2 parking tickets. None of these things have ever happened to me before. I don't know if it's L.A. I don't know if Divine, everyone says yes, it is. I don't know. Divine Mother's messing with me. And the only trouble is, and I mentioned my husband, is that I have a husband. And maybe I could take it a little easier if I didn't have to tell him that these things are going on, but I do. Anyway, that's not the topic of today, but I just thought, I also I read this really sweet story that's a little bit on topic. Not really, but it's too cute to pass up. So it was a story about this man who took his 4-year-old daughter with him, and he would make the rounds of elderly old folks' homes. And she was fascinated with all the gadgets, the canes and the wheelchairs and, the walkers and all the different things that we need as we grow older. And I say that because I'm pretty sure it's going to happen to many of us. And but so she went with him one day, and she was looking at all these things. Wow, what's this? What's this? And then she saw in this glass somebody's dentures. And she looked, and then she says, "Whoa, is the tooth fairy ever gonna love this?" So I think the reason I even mention it in this topic is that, when we're young, everything's fascinating. Everything's new. Everything's exciting, and, it doesn't really do that much to us to go to Disneyland now, but if you take a child with you, it's fabulous because you get to see it through their eyes, and you get to experience that ever new joy, the ever new excitement, that just the glory of something that fabulous. And so, in a way, it does touch in with this subject, because as we grow, we say, oh my gosh, doesn't she know? Or, oh, the rainbow's out again. Or we can get like that when we grow up. We shouldn't. We should keep it ever new, ever fascinating. And then we can feel this joy, because to be receptive to God is to keep open to every single thing that comes into your life. I lost my bangle. I have to be receptive. I can't just moan about it. I have to know that it's from Divine Mother. And if she wants to give it back, great. And if she doesn't, the other side of it is, what's going to happen to the person that finds it? If they're honest, they'll try to find some way to give it back, but they may not be. And they'll think that that's Divine Mother's gift to them. They were poor. They found this thing that's worth a lot of money. And wow, Divine Mother, help me when I was poor, when I was forsaken, when I thought no one loved me. So you have to sort of step back in life, and you have to look at it from God's point of view, from the bird's point of view, from the flower's point of view. Everything is just perfect the way it is. I was reading a fascinating story not too long ago. And again, it's a true story. And it took place in India, in this tiny little village in India. And this man, Mohan Singh, was the head of the Ho family. And there were many little villages nearby. And one night they were sleeping in their hut. They didn't have very much. And they heard all this commotion. And they look up, and these policemen and doctors are banging on their door and breaking down the door and entering their home in the middle of the night. And they got up. They knew what it was. These people were coming to give them smallpox vaccinations, but they weren't going for it because it wasn't in their faith to take shots, to have shots. And so they were fighting with the doctors and soldiers, policemen, and they were biting them and hitting them, and with all their might, they were fighting what they felt was an adharmic action. But they lost, because there were many policemen and many doctors, and very intent on giving them these shots. So after they got the shots, Mr. Singh got up, went over to their little garden that they had. They had one cucumber left in there for that vine. He picked the cucumber, and he handed it to the head of the doctors. And everybody's looking, I don't know what is going on. And so the man who's telling the story asked his interpreter, what's happening? And he says, well, Mr. Singh is saying that tonight, against our will, we were given these shots. We believe that that's adharmic. We believe that we want to surrender to God's will, and to us, that is not taking in medicine. You, however, have come, and you feel it's dharmic to give us these shots. And so you are doing what you feel is God's will. Now, I find that you are guests in my home, and as guests, I need to feed you, and the only thing I have is this cucumber. What is this kind of faith, this strength of courage, this amazing ability to let everything go? This is obviously very important to them, and let it go. I did my best, and now I have to surrender. Beautiful story. I was reading, in fact, I think I might read it to you. I was reading, I don't have it here, so I will try to remember it. It's a quote by Thomas Edison. And I think you've heard the story of how many times he had to try to make the light bulb work. He was determined to make it work. And I don't know, Lakshman probably knows, but it was over like 20,000 times. Amazing amount of times that he tried to find something that would keep that light glowing. And he finally did. And we have the light bulb. And since then, it's progressed to other things. But that was the beginning. But what he says is, I know about trying. And I know about giving up. And I've tried many, many things. And I've lost many, many things. But what I've found is that just at the point where you think you can go on no longer, that's the time to keep going. That's the time when you find, when you tune in, when you intuit, okay, I need to be open. I've tried with my own mind, with my own being, with my own strength. Now I need God to help me. Now I need to tune that will into His will, because it's only then that we really know what's right. And so he was able to do that. There's a story of a king, Vibhishana. I hope I'm saying that right. And he's a character in the Ramayana, the Indian scriptures. And he was the brother of Ravana. Those of you that know about the scriptures, Ravana was the evil king in Sri Lanka. And Rama had to go and he had to rescue Sita, his bride, from Ravana. So it's this great, fabulous epic about divine love, about dharma, about fortitude, about perseverance, about love. But so Vibhishana was Ravana's brother, and he stood by his brother. He was very loyal to his brother. But when he realized Ravana was really doing bad things, he couldn't do it anymore. And Rama was across the ocean. He hadn't crossed the ocean to Sri Lanka yet. And he was over there with his armies, the side of good, Ravana the side of evil in this epic. And Vibhishana realized he couldn't do this anymore. So he crossed the ocean, and he started to go past Rama's fortress of warriors to get to Rama. They said, no, you can't. They were protecting their king. And then they went to Rama and said, he's trying to get. He said, let him come. And Vibhishana came, and he bowed down at Rama's feet. And Rama said, rise, you can be with us. And everyone's saying, how can you do that? How can you trust him? And he said, when someone comes to me in all humility and all love, I will always, always be there for them. This is what we too need to remember. That receptive heart, that open mind, we beat ourselves up a lot. I'm not good enough. I'm not talented enough. I blow it all the time. I have to call my husband again and tell him I've lost something. Over and over, we have these things that we think are bad. They're not bad. They're helping us on the ladder to self-realization when we accept them in the right spirit, when we have the faith to know. Remember that story of Yogananda in The Path, the New Path, Swami Kriyananda writes. Actually, it's in the autobiography of Yogi, Paramahansa Yogananda. And he is telling about when he's being asked to come to America. And I won't go through the whole story. There are many stories connected with it. But first he gets a vision that he should go. For most of us, that would be enough. Then he goes to his father. Goes to his guru. Can't remember which order, but he goes to both. His guru says, go, it's time. Goes to his father and asks his father for the money. His father says, no, I'm not giving you the money to do that. But this is one of the sweetest stories in my mind in the AY, in the autobiography. He asks his father for this money. His father says no. He doesn't want him to go to America. He loves his son. He's attached to his son. And he goes to meditate. He's a disciple of Lahiri Mahashaya. He goes to meditate that night, and the next morning he comes and he gives his son a check for his trip to America and money to sustain him while he's there. And Paramahansa Yogananda looks Very, very grateful. In my mind, I think Lahiri Mahashai came to him that night and told him to give him that money. That's what I've always felt. He was a very high soul, his father, and very devoted to his guru. But again, here it is, someone that's opened their heart to God, and the right thing happens. Where would we all be if he hadn't come to America? It'd be very hard for us to know how we would have found him. We probably would have. It's our karma. But the world has been touched because he came here. But the real story I want to tell is that story about, again, he had to hear it from Babaji himself. Those of you who don't know our line of gurus, this is Babaji, this is Lahiri Mahashaya, who I believe came to Yogananda here. His father gave him the go-ahead to give him the money. But Paramahansa Yogananda sat in meditation, and he said he would not stop meditating until Babaji came to him. Till he had a sign from God himself that he should go. And he said, I meditated until I thought my brain would burst. How many of us do that? This is the strength I'm talking about, the fortitude, the perseverance that we need to have. And Babaji did come, and he told him, it's time to go to the West. And he did. These examples of fortitude, but there's something very, very important also with this receptivity. We need strength. We need openness. We need a pure heart. And next week we're going to learn much more about the love of the masters at Sunday service. But what I wanted to touch on is that attunement that we heard Lakshman read about from Rays of the One Light. That attunement with the Guru, with God, whatever that is, whoever that is for you, that attunement will take you to God. That attunement will give you every single thing you want in this world. All these trinkets, they mean nothing. All these relationships, as beautiful as they are, everything has to go when we die. Nothing will be with us but that love for God. That's what we'll bring back with us in our next life. Last night, I told you I would talk about this, but last night we saw a movie, Chariots of Fire, one of my favorite movies. And once again, I was moved to tears because here is a soul. This was a movie, a true story about a group of men, actually, from England, Scotland, Wales, who went to the 1924 Olympics in Paris, representing their country. And there was a lot about representing your country and being loyal to your country. And this group of men went to the Olympics, and they were against two of the fastest runners in the world from the United States. So there was a lot of competition. It wasn't just that they were so much better. They were very good, but there were other men that were probably equally as good, except for this interesting difference. Actually, one of the men that this movie is about is a Jewish man who is extremely arrogant and has a lot of deep-seated pain. And he's trying to prove himself. And he's never been beaten in a race, and he's never going to be beaten in a race. But, of course, Divine Mother sets it up so that he has to be beaten so that he can get even better. But the man that's so inspiring is this man, Eric Liddell, who was a real character person in the world. He was a missionary to China. His whole family were missionaries in China. And he says in the movie, because his sister is very much against him running. She's afraid it's going to take over and he's going to become egotistical if he puts his energy into running. And she says, and she's just fighting him all the way. And he finally says, you don't understand. My life is God. I am going to China. Don't worry. I will go to China. But God also made me fast. Interesting way of saying it. Not, I am fast. I'm a fast runner. God made me fast. He knew it all came from him. And he had to glorify him. And he says, when I run, I feel his pleasure. And this is a fantastic image of this man. Because, you know, when you see the saints, very often they're depicted looking up, their eyes looking up, maybe sometimes their whole being looking up like this. That's how he runs. He starts running like any runner that you've seen, and all of a sudden he gets in the stride, and all of a sudden you feel this power of God, and his head is back like this. I mean, I can't even put my head back there, but his head is all the way back. This huge smile on his face, and he is just with God. There's no way that man's going to lose. But what is interesting, too, just as he's getting on the plane to go to Paris, someone says, see you on Sunday for the first heat. A heat is like a prerequisite to getting in the Olympics or a race. You have to start with a lot of people, and it brings it down to just a few that'll run the final race. And he says, Sunday? Oh, no, I can't run on Sunday because I don't believe in running. I don't believe in even playing on Sunday. I can't do anything on Sunday. And he refuses to run. Now, you've got to understand, this was a passion of his. His country is counting on him. And he can't run because he feels it's adharmic. And then, I'm not going to tell you the whole story. But it sounds like it. But circumstances happen that he can run. That's all I'll tell you. He ends up running. And just before he's down on those, whatever you call them, down in those things about ready to run. What are they called? Starter blocks. Although back then they had to dig a hole for their feet. Yes. Starter blocks. This American, who's the fastest runner in the world, basically, so far, this is the 200-yard dash. He comes over and he hands Eric Little a note. And on that, he opens it up. It says, those who honor me will I honor. Amazing. This is his opponent. But everyone is so moved, and everyone knows the story, that he won't run because it's Sunday. And all the officials are trying to give him all these excuses and all these ways why he won't have to pay attention to his higher dharma, because he should really honor his country first. But isn't this amazing? That was in 1924. I hope there's people still like that in the world, but you certainly hear about them less and less, unless they're devotees. He actually was a devotee. His guru was Christ. He lived that life. He was fabulous. And I'd like to end with a reading from Swami Kriyananda about this topic. A master is a clear channel for God's love. In that ray, he bestows soul expansion on his disciples, an expansion of awareness they on their own could not even conceptualize adequately. The deeper one's attunement to this channel, the more clearly one realizes himself too to be a son of God. The disciple, by attuning himself to the ray of his guru's love, receives the guru's magnetism in return. This is the way to God. There is no other. So through these stories of these wonderful souls, they understand this principle. There's no other way. Soul receptivity, accepting what comes and offering it up, because even when it looks there's no other way out, how could it possibly be? When we give our lives into the hands of the Guru and the hands of God, he'll turn it around perfectly so that it works for the best in your life. God bless you. the offering then. We'll take our offering now. Take what you'd like to give in your right hand and repeat after me. Divine Mother, receive this offering. May it serve to spread thy message of self-realization to all truth-seeking souls. Om. Peace. Amen. Now we'll have our singers.
Entitled Make Us Channels of Thy Peace, and it's been attributed to St. Francis of Assisi for many, many years, and very recently they have found that it was probably written by William the Conqueror and came down from him, which is interesting to us because that was a prior incarnation of Yogananda. So it's one of our favorite songs. Okay. Lord Most High, our Heavenly Father, all our lives we dedicate to Thee. All our labors, all our joys and woes, all our pleasure, all our melody. Make us each a channel